TJ, you are known as the olive oil hunter, and olive oil has gotten so much good press over the last several years. Most health experts, they're like, if you're going to use oil, use olive oil for a variety of benefits. Um, I would love to hear from you. Like, what are some of the benefits that are often maybe not discussed as much when it comes to olive oil?
Absolutely. Definitely. One thing to remember is olives are fruit. Most people don't realize that. And olive oil is a fruit juice. So, specifically, we have this high level of oleic acid. And these are MUFAs that are in they're monounsaturated fats that are in the olive oil. And the science of olive oil has been really so in the Mediterranean. There's a lot of universities that are studying the health benefits of olive oil, and they're really uncovering over the last 20 years these powerful compounds called polyphenols. And polyphenols are not just the healthy fats in olive oil, but also all the plant sterols, which really bring a lot of anti-inflammatory capabilities. They're very much akin to ibuprofen, and we can go down that rabbit hole together a little bit. But I work a lot with health and wellness community. A lot of the folks I work with are bone health, weight loss, specifically olive oil. High polyphenol olive oil has a very high level of satiety. So when people consume olive oil with their food, it keeps them fuller longer. I have people that do fat fast using olive oil, my olive oil. They put it in their smoothies, that sort of thing. I have people that are doing it for their cholesterol levels. There's a lot of science on that where they put people on different polyphenol levels. They take a test group and they put them on a low polyphenol, a medium polyphenol, and a high polyphenol olive oil. And the high polyphenol olive oil actually has a better reduction in shows the research shows a reduction in the health markers. You obviously have skin benefits. You have gut, specifically gut biome. So I mean, the list, we can talk a long time, but it just goes on and on. But the problem is most olive oil in America is a commodity product, and a commodity product has commodity level health benefits. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to know if you're getting the real stuff, the good stuff, the non-counterfeit stuff. So that's what we're going to get into, is how to identify the great stuff.
Taking this one step further, as much as olive oil has gotten a lot of good press lately, why do you like what myths do you see out there about olive oil that need to be debunked?
Well, it's interesting you say that. So as all of what you're talking about is everybody saying, have more olive oil, have more olive oil. And as consumption has gone up, a lot of the fraud has gone up in olive oil because the fraudsters have learned that it's very easy to basically lots of research has been done. 60 Minutes did an expose on the agro mafia in Italy and showed exactly how they counterfeit olive oil. It's basically opened up this window for the fraudsters to make a lot of cash selling lower quality olive oil as extra virgin. So extra virgin is the key. We want to find high quality extra virgin, but the category of extra virgin is actually pretty wide, and it's a pretty low bar to hit. And most of the time when olive oil is bottled, it may have been bottled at extra virgin, but 2 years later, when you buy it in your supermarket and it's sitting under fluorescent lights and it's gone through, heated distribution channel, slow boat from wherever, the quality level isn't there anymore. So UC Davis did a study, and these studies continue to go on, but their groundbreaking study was they bought a lot of olive oil from a supermarket all over California, sent that off to a lab, and almost 70% of those did not meet the standard of extra virgin. So you just really have to be careful. And this has just opened up an opportunity for, and there's a great article in the New Yorker called Slippery Business of Olive Oil. There's a wonderful book called Extra Virginity written by Tom Mueller that is an expose on olive oil dating back to Roman times that really follow the fraud that happens in olive oil. So really it's about, knowing your producer, knowing how to identify a quality product to ensure that you're getting the health benefits that you want of the Mediterranean diet or olive oil you want. So, one, buy the good stuff if you want the benefit. So that's one myth. Two, you don't need two olive oils in your kitchen. The people who sold olive oil in the 70s and 80s in the US, they realized they talked Americans into having a bottle of olive oil in their kitchen. Most homes in America have a bottle of olive oil, commodity olive oil in their kitchen. They realized that they could tell them they need two, and they doubled their market share because they told them they needed a virgin and an extra virgin. If you go into a grandmother's kitchen in Sicily, you're only going to find one olive oil, and that's the fresh olive oil from the season. It's extra virgin, and it will be used until the next season, and that's it. So you don't need two olive oils in your kitchen. And then the third really important one is you can actually cook with olive oil if it's a high antioxidant olive oil, because it actually keeps it from breaking down when being heated. And we can go into tips and tricks about that as well.
Yeah, so what does it mean to be like virgin, extra virgin olive oil? Like, what does all that mean as far as how it's produced, the health benefits, et cetera? Because you hear so much about that.
Yeah, so two things. So olive oil goes through two very specific tests. So my olive oil, my Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club, artisanal olive oil, and in Europe, oils that are sold as extra virgin actually have to have a lab certificate. In the US, it's not so policed. Our FDA and USDA is really focused on things that make people really sick. Fish, eggs, meat, those sort of things. They kind of have their tier of priority, and olive oil is not up there. So they really focus on other things that are more critical. So what that has done, so in Europe, if you want to sell an oil as extra virgin, it has to go through two tests. One is an organoleptic test. So organoleptic is goes with a panel. They will have these blue cups just like this. These are for made for sensory analysis. These are panel tasters. These are professional tasters. And what happens? You get a sample of the oil. It goes off to this panel, and there will be at least six people who assess the oil and are going to mark it. They're going to grade it. In wine, there's about 70 additives you can add to wine. So there's a lot of you can hide behind poor production quality in wine. In olive oil, you can't do that. The final product really tells the story. So this organoleptic panel, they first smell for defects. If there are defects, which means things happened to the fruit on the tree, the mill was dirty, it was overheated when it was being processed, it was held in a bad tank, it's old, it's rancid, it's low quality, it will be marked as defective and will be thrown out of extra virgin category. And then that would move it to virgin. And then there's another category below that, which is like for super low quality oil in Spain, the fruit falls to the ground, so there's no harvest cost, and they vacuum it up and they press it, and then the oil is sent to a refinery, and that refinery uses hexane gas to strip the oil of all of its aroma, and is just left with essentially clean olive oil, which is called light olive oil. It's not lower in calories. It's just considered light or pure olive oil. And you'll find that. And that is just a healthy fat. It does not have any of the plant sterols that we're really looking for, the antioxidants and polyphenols and all those sort of things. So stay away from those categories. I focus solely on extra virgin. So the panel looks for A, defects. Two, they look for fruitiness in the olive oil. So that's aromas of fresh things like grass and basil and things like that. We'll talk more about that when we taste. They're also looking for bitterness. Olive oil should be bitter. That tells you it's from early harvest fruit. And the third thing they look for is spiciness. They want a little bit of picante, a little spice, and that tells you it's fresh. So you will get a certificate, an organoleptic certificate that says this meets the standards of extra virgin olive olive oil. So that's step one. Step two is that oil is actually sent through a chemistry test. So they're looking at different parameters of the oil, the peroxide level, the delta K light that looks for the quality level of the fruit, and then it has to meet that as well. The fatty acid profile, it has to meet that, and then you get your certificate of extra virgin. And so that's what we do. We send our oil. Not only do I certify it, but we send it to a third party lab in Italy, the top in the world, who certifies it through their tasting panel and also their chemistry lab to be extra virgin. And of course, that's. I hope I answered that. Long-winded, but
Yeah, and then so is it safe to say that most of the olive oil you buy in a store is not does not have the benefits that people are looking for?
there's good, better, best. And if you're a good shopper, and you know how, if you buy your olive oil in a glass bottle, if you look for harvest date on the back of the bottle, especially if it's not like multiple countries of origin, if it's multiple countries of origin, there's very little love in that bottle. Look for single estate oils. So harvest date, dark glass, places that turn over quickly, and then learning how to taste and identify the quality markers in olive oil, which we're going to teach you on this podcast. So now, I so that's like the best, right? We want to find the best. That would be like joining the club. I'm the single link in the chain between the small family farmer in America. I buy it in by jet. I work with the top 20 olive oil producers in the world, the most award-winning producers. Like, this is the absolute pinnacle of olive oil. Below that, just being educated, and tasting and finding a place that has high levels of overturn and fresh oil that comes in. It's really hard to find. Most people aren't flying in olive oil on a jet. They're sending it on cargo boats. They're marketing it as fresh, but if you actually ask, it was harvested a year and a half ago, and it's not really considered fresh after 6 months of production, because those polyphenol levels that we're talking about, they deplete. Science says polyphenol levels deplete by 50% in the first 6 months after harvest. So our goal is to excuse me, rush the oil by jet, from country of origin in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere to my club members in the US.
So if somebody's trying to use olive oil to transform their relationship with themselves, their health, their lifestyle, what do you think is the best way to do that after they've figured out like what's the best type to buy?
Yeah. Well, for me, one of the things, I think of olive oil as a sauce that Mother Nature made for you. Most people don't think of it as that because they've never had the great stuff. So once you have the great stuff, you think about, this is a sauce. And Mother Nature made it for me, and let it become the backbone of your healthy cooking. They've known in the Mediterranean for centuries that olive oil has all these health promoting properties. They used it for religious purposes. They used it for their culinary purposes. It was part of their culture, their family heritage. Every year, it's a very celebrated tree. It's a sign of peace. I mean, it's this beautiful, God given tree that we have that produces incredible benefits. And the technology of how we press the oil over time has really improved, so that we can actually have really high quality stuff. So A, use it as a sauce. B, you can absolutely cook with it, related to smoke point and those sort of things. Most things we do are below the 410 smoke point degree. Like, I fry my morning eggs in olive oil. My eggs in the morning, I do over medium heat. One of my tips and tricks is that I heat my pan, and I have my eggs ready to go. I heat my pan. I add my olive. Once my pan is hot, I add my olive oil. Then I add my eggs, and then I'm ready to go. Like, I don't put the oil in the pan, let it sit there and heat while I fiddle around trying to get my eggs out of the fridge and all that. Like, it's a hot pan, little oil, and then go with your food. It's just a quick thing like that. And then thinking about the simplicity of cooking and the simplicity. I mean, Olive oil is this flavor booster. Fat is flavor. And fat and salt are flavor. So if you have a fresh olive oil, think of it as the difference between dried herbs, which is a commodity level olive oil profile, versus fresh pressed olive oil, which is like using fresh herbs. So think of it like that. And also just keeping things very simple. People talk about in Italy, like how simple the food is, but how delicious, because they're very focused on the quality of each ingredient. So my wife, for example, steams some green beans. She'll pick up from Trader Joe's some haricot verts. She'll steam them and just until they're perfectly tender. She'll put them on a plate. She'll sprinkle them with some high quality salt. Not You want to use a high quality salt because salt has a lot of minerals in it that's very health promoting. So like a Redmond real salt or a fleur de sel or a gray salt, but like a Celtic sea salt, and then just a drizzle of olive oil on a plate. That's it. So there's three ingredients: green beans, salt, olive oil. And I guarantee you're going to be happy. You can do that with a roast chicken you bring home from the supermarket. You can simply grill a piece of fish or chicken, take it off of the grill, put it on a plate, drizzle it with olive oil. It'll just soak it up like a sponge, and it's going to be delicious. And you're just going to be so happy and satisfied and stay full because of the olive oil.
We talk a lot on the podcast about burning body fat. You mentioned that people who are interested in olive oil are interested in it because of the weight loss benefits. I would love for you to talk more about that if you can.
Sure. So, one of the folks that I worked with in the past, his name is Dr. Daniel Pompa, or Dr. Pompa, and he was. I attended a couple of his events, and he works with a guy named Ben Azadi. You might know Ben. He's written several books on keto, and keto flex and that sort of thing. Big fan of Ben's as well. But anyway, these guys, they really leverage fat, and especially high quality extra virgin olive oil like mine, and that level of satiety as a way to help them stay longer in these fat fasts. I'm not an MD. I'm a chef. I'm an olive oil taster. So do your own research, check with your own physician. But people do leverage high quality olive oil because these polyphenols have this high level of satiety, and I can share some research on that. People do use it as part of a Mediterranean diet for sure. That's like I think most folks. And then there are people that are using it for keto and paleo. Olive oil, there are several types of oil that are considered very health promoting. Olive oil is one. Avocado oil, people use a lot of as well. Again, another fruit based oil. And then coconut oil. People love coconut oil. I don't love the flavor of coconut oil. I like it in curries and things like that, but I don't like it on my morning eggs. I find it just really does my brain doesn't like that. When it comes to olive oil, yes. But all of those fats, which are considered healthy fats, they are all from fruit. So we want to stay away from seed oils. Even in restaurants, my wife and I take my wife takes the small bottle of olive oil into a restaurant because restaurants are filled with seed oils. And even if you ask, do you use olive oil? Most of them will say yes. But when you actually ask, it's usually an olive oil blend because they can't afford high quality olive oil. So what we will do, we'll ask for extra lemons for our water or lime, depending on the restaurant we're in, or both. And then we will squeeze a little lemon or lime on our salad with a little fresh pressed olive oil. And even if there's and that makes an incredible quick vinaigrette, a little salt and pepper. And that's what they do in the Mediterranean. If you sit at a table in Sicily, you're going to have a bottle of olive oil and some lemon that's served with the salad. And it's really easy to do because people don't realize that a lot of these even healthy salad dressings you buy in the supermarket, they're filled with stabilizers, bad oils, and even if it's olive oil, because it's been mixed with other stuff, it's just sitting there oxidizing. So it's not something you want to do. So using it as a swap, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like try to swap out, some of the things you're doing in your kitchen. Do a swap. Even with baking, most baking olive oil is fantastic for baked goods. We at our house, if we have company coming and we're just like we're pinched for time, we'll grab a box of Ghirardelli dark chocolate brownies, and we will, instead of using seed oil, we'll use fresh pressed olive oil. You know, it calls for half a cup or whatever, and it's the most delicious brownies you've ever had. So you can absolutely use it for banana bread, pancakes, all that sort of stuff. Just replacing um, those bad oils with health promoting oils, and you will feel the difference.
So olive oil can kind of be like peanut butter in the sense where people get portion sizes like kind of wrong and they're like, "Oh, it's healthy. I'll just like I mean if you're making a salad, you're just like dumping, olive oil and mixing it. By the time it's all said and done, there's like a cup of olive oil in there, which, I might be exaggerating, but you get what I'm saying. So staying on the theme of using olive oil to promote health, fat loss, what have you found to be an effective way to like measure it when using it in everyday things don't necessarily call for like a recipe, so to speak, so that people who are health conscious and looking to control their calories can still do so effectively?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned restricting quantity, because I don't know if you know this, but I think in Greece, the average consumption of olive oil, these are people who are smoking, these are people who are drinking, and they're consuming 28 liters of olive oil per year. 28 liters. Like that's a lot of olive oil. I mean, that's insane, and they're living, to be like to 100 or whatever. It's just like blows your mind. But yes, there are things you can do. Some people like to do a measure or put it in a spray bottle, those sort of things. I honestly find that it's such an easy oil to digest, and it creates a better delivery system when you have high quality olive oil with salad greens, let's say. You actually get more health benefits of the what you're consuming. Let's say it's arugula or whatever, you're going to get, or if you have it with your vitamins or in your smoothie, you're going to actually get higher levels of delivery of the fat soluble vitamins and nutrients in the food. So I do have people that will put it in spray bottles, those sort of things. And one of the things that's very fashionable right now is olive oil in a plastic bottle with a tip, a squeezy tip on it. Um, Never buy olive oil in a plastic bottle. Olive oil breaks down the plastic, and you have all of the chemicals, all of the petrochemicals from the plastic moving into your olive oil. So do not buy olive oil. Glass bottle only. So definitely stay away from that. You can put it in a squeeze bottle. It needs to be kept away from light. It needs to be kept away from heat, because those destroy olive oil, and time, which is oxidation. So those are really the three killers of olive oil is photosensitive. So light, time, and time are the really big ones, and heat. So that's why we rush it in by jet. It's in a dark bottle. It's from that harvest. And while we're going to the northern hemisphere during their harvest, immigrants who left the Mediterranean and moved to the southern hemisphere, they cut the like hems out of their clothes, and they buried, or not buried, they hid cuttings of olive trees, which they took to the New World and propagated. So we have, for religious, for health, for their family culture and heritage. So they took those to the New World. So we have wonderful olive oil in Chile, in Argentina, uh, in New Zealand and Australia. We have beautiful oil there, which is the opposite season of the Mediterranean. So that's how we, as the Fresh Pressed Olive Oil Club, and I, work with farmers around the globe. So it's just travel, perpetual travel for me to get the best stuff, get it on a jet, and send it to my club members.
You have your own story of adversity. I'm curious to hear how you turned like dyslexia into a superpower.
Yeah, well, I grew up in Western North Carolina. I clearly knew what fresh pressed apple cider tasted like. I had no idea what fresh pressed olive oil tastes like until I visited Sicily, and this was 20 years ago, and learned that olive oil, the U.S. was a dumping ground for low quality olive oil back then. It has improved, thank God. But for me, growing up in Western North Carolina, my family got olive oil at the grocery store. We would use it on salads and those sort of things, but it was very like low quality olive oil. And dyslexia held me back in my education. I spent a lot of my years in special education classes and kind of catching up. I tried to do real college first. I flunked out, but I really discovered my superpower was my palate. So once I discovered that, then I discovered that my local community college had an incredible culinary program here in Asheville, North Carolina, where I grew up. That's actually one of the best in the country, and also super cheap. So I was like, oh, I could really, I always had a passion for cooking, and I didn't realize that I could make a living doing that. So I started using my palate and developing it, learning how to taste and combine flavors. And I actually became a saucier, which is actually what I do when I make an incredible olive oil. I told you guys I consider it a sauce that Mother Nature made for me. And then so I kind of made my way through college through culinary school. That's how basically it clicked, and I found my crowd, and I was really a wonderful talented chef. It's a really hard job. It's a really hard industry. I learned early on it was not for me. It's a very difficult. There's a lot of addiction. There's a lot of just because it's so adrenaline, and it's not an area that I wanted to spend my life in the kitchen. But what I learned through culinary competitions, which is where we would go and compete on the national level, is that there's a much larger world out there just outside of a commercial kitchen. So eventually I found my way to being a food stylist and working in production at the Food Network and at the Today Show, and working with a guy in New York who is an author. So I learned how to use my palate, and that kind of he was the food critic for Gourmet Magazine. So we would go and we would test restaurants, and I would take copious notes and flavor profiles. And those days my palate was so practiced that I could taste something and I could tell you every ingredient that was in it. Like, I was impressive in my 20s. I've lost a lot of that now that I focus solely on olive oil. But I think, if you do, suffer through, adversity, I really see every setback as an opportunity. And for me, when I dropped out and I thought, I'm just going to have to do this, minimum wage job for the rest of my life, I was just, which I did for like 6 months prior to, finding my way into culinary school, and finding my click and my superpower and how to leverage it. Just, stick with it and try to find what that superpower is, and then how to leverage it. And it opens doors. So that's kind of my story.
How did you get let go of like the shame and the guilt and like the fear of failure, all those things when you made that switch?
Um, I kind of did it on a whim. I didn't put, I think I took some of the pressure off of me in a way that I did go to that local community college. I explored going to the biggies like the CIA in Hyde Park, New York for culinary school, Johnson and Wales in Charleston. They had just opened a campus. These are the top two very elite culinary schools in America. They were very expensive. Even back then, it was 50, $100,000 for education. I have no idea what it is today. My little community college, which is one of the top schools in the country, I spent less than $5,000, and because I had a learning disability, I actually got a scholarship as well. So it kind of took the pressure off of me, that I wasn't going to have this incredible amount of debt, but was going to allow me to see, is this going to be a good fit for me? So it was a calculated risk, and at the same time I was going to culinary school. I knew I wanted to find a job that would be a stepping stone, and also be internationally recognized versus like a local cafe or something like that. So I went to work for the Biltmore Estate, which is the largest home in America here in Asheville. It's a Vanderbilt home. And I was the chef, eventually made my way up to chef of the winery there, which was an awesome experience. I got to travel with them, and they supported me while I was in school, and my schedule and my competitions and that sort of thing. So, I really, once I found my place, and that palette led me there, I felt like I had wind behind my sail that was just going to carry me. But at the same time, I tried to do it without putting over too much pressure on me. Even though I explored those other opportunities, I chose something that was not going to be a big deal if I dropped out in 6 months, basically.
Why'd you go the olive oil route? I mean, your job sounded so fun, like being able to work for the Food Network and travel, and taste different foods and go to different restaurants. I'm sure you met a lot of cool people. Like, why did you? I don't want to say throw that all away because that allowed you to get to where you are now. But why did you make that massive career shift and go into the olive oil business of all things?
Yeah, well, one thing I really learned along my route is just following my passions. And so I built a business in 2001 with my business partner, David, who had a show on the Food Network. He was not a chef, he was a writer. We built a newsletter called the Rosengarten Report. And after about 5 years of not doing any advertising or anything like that, I was invited to this harvest party in Sicily. And when I attended this harvest party, I had no idea what fresh olive oil tasted like, but I spent a day with this family, and I could see their passion and their love and just this culture of this tight knit family who was producing from their great great grandfather's trees, and how much love and care. And I got to spend the day with them and learn about, green olives produce high quality olive oil. Black olives do not. I learned so much that day. And as the olive ripens on the tree, the same olive goes from about 10% oil to 30% oil. And I learned that the people who really care and want to make really great stuff that is for their family, they choose green olives, and that creates these polyphenols, which we'll taste in a little bit. So, for me, just being part of that community, in that culture, and we spent the evening at the mill. And the first time I just put my nose in a glass, I knew at that moment my life changed, and I had this new mission. Because in America, I'd never tasted, being a foodie and all that, I'd never tasted olive oil like this. It was being kept from us, and it really pissed me off. And I said, I want this for my friends and family in America. They should have access to this. So I was the first person to put olive oil on a plane and bring it to America. People fell in love with it, and that was 2004. So I've been doing this about 20 years, and it's caught on. The science has kept up and that sort of thing. And so in 2009, the economy shifted a little bit. 2008, 2009, and I had sold the olive oil business. I continued to run it as part of what I was doing in New York. But in 2009, I decided, my family, my grandmother who was getting older, and my mom, who live in Asheville, North Carolina, and my brothers and sisters, I wanted to come back to Asheville. All the things in New York that were very surreal in the beginning, being in the green room with Madonna in the morning, eating bagels, or being with doing the food segment with Drew Carey, who and the Victoria's Secret models, like being on The View with them, all those things in the beginning were like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell my family about this. But really, after doing it 10 years and having a 4 a.m. call time, it was like, I've done this. I'm ready to kind of scale back, move to Asheville. And olive oil, I love to travel, and olive oil, I travel quarterly through the Mediterranean and the Southern Hemisphere, as I told you. So I still got to like have that love of travel and adventure, and get to live in my passion. So I really started doing that in 2009, and just just focused. You know, I've never been a person who likes to have too many things going on. I find that if I keep, you know, very focused, people have asked me over the 20 years, well, why don't you do this or why don't you do that? And, you know, yes, I have 30,000 club members that I love to introduce new products to, but at the same time, I'm highly focused within my passion, and that creates a beautiful product. So for me, it's very like soulful, this experience of like giving birth to this trio of olive oil every quarter, working with these partners around the world who help me do it. So that's kind of why and how I transitioned a simpler life.
You seem like somebody who really values integrity and authenticity, just based on the few minutes I've spent with you already and just listening to you on other interviews. How do you um, stay motivated and remain true to that in an industry where shortcuts and deception are commonly rewarded?
That's absolutely true. I think, you know, it's relationships. In the really, I have two major relationships. One with my farmers. So these people, they're the outsiders in their community. The most people let the fruit hang on the tree. They let more oil get into the fruit, and then they sell it as a commodity product by the liter. It's hard to get off the tree when it's green. There's very little oil inside the fruit. Again, it goes from like 20 to 30, 20 to 20. Sorry, it starts at about 10 when it's green and then gets up to could be 25% as the fruit hangs on the tree an extra month or so. So I'm working with people that are highly passionate about their trees, about the irrigation that they get, about all the varieties. There are 550 olive varieties in Italy alone. So think about apple varieties. We know the difference between a Granny Smith and a Golden Delicious in the U.S. in apples, but in the Mediterranean, people recognize different olive varieties and they like specific oils. So it's really just about helping them with their passion. So, A, they have the tree. Two, they have the mill. These are people who put in these very boutique mills on their farms. So they have complete control of the quality of what's being produced. And these are the highest quality mills in the world. So these mills keep oxidation for happening. They're highly cleanable, so the oil has no defects. It's perfectly clean, and then they're in control in these small batches that they make them in. So those are the folks. These are like the competitive olive oil producers that I work with, and that we make a product together. And then I get to deliver to, so I have deep relationships with them that go back 20 years, and they've grown with me as my club has grown. And then two, I have a relationship with my club members. So with my club members, I send them the story. Here's the pressing report of the harvest every quarter. So this is me in the grove. You can see there on the screen, me in the grove, bonding, picking the fruit. I give the story of each oil, why I selected it, why I'm in Spain this time of year, doing tastings and all that sort of stuff. But I really share the history and the story of the product. And then I also teach my club members how to use it. I give them a recipe section. There's a health section in the booklet as well. But there's a big section here on recipes and how to use the oil in your kitchen. So people really join me on my adventure. And it's an adventure of taste, travel, and every quarter they get new oils from around the world. So this is a curated selection of three oils: a mild, a medium, and bold. And so those, for me, it's a relationship business. So with my producer and with my club member, and then that helps my club member reach their health goals, and then they get used to the quality of my oil, and then they stay with me because they immediately recognize that what they've been buying in the past isn't meeting the bar to get to where they want to go with their health goals.
Yeah, and what I was also trying to get at is in the supplement space specifically, and in the health and wellness community, the way you kind of get ahead and get attention is by making some like bold, outrageous claim about whatever it is you're doing or you're selling, right? Um, how have you like kind of dodged that? And like what is your like I guess, bold claim about olive oil, specifically your company that makes it fresh. Like, how do you make it all stand out without creating controversy?
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, luckily for me, I've been riding a wave, right? So I started the club in 2004. I science has been catching up, and also the media has been catching up. Speaking of media, I have a couple quotes from the Wall Street Journal. Don't sleep on this game-changing ingredient. When it comes to olive oil, the younger, the better. Vibrant, flavorful oleo nuovo, which is fresh olive oil, is a pantry pick me up that you should purchase pronto. And here's another one from the New York Times. The world of olive oil is murky. Here's help for the home cook. Don't try to parse every word on the label. The keys to good flavor are seeking out the freshest oil and using it generously. Olive oil should be poured lavishly and used up quickly. Experts say that freshness, more than color or price or place of origin, determines its quality. That's direct from the New York Times. So major media is doing a lot of the lifting for me. And then what I do, people, and this isn't available on my website, so this is for your folks only. If they go to getfreshdoug.com, they will get a sample bottle for $1. And then they do their own taste test at home and they learn they can take theirs out of their pantry and then taste it against the fresh pressed olive oil club oil that they receive. Their sample bottle for only $1, and then learn. So I've always said the proof is in the pudding. Like I'm a chef, and I'm like, look, if you have to taste it to believe it, and if it's a fit, great. If it's not, great. But I'm very lucky that a lot of folks who try the olive oil, they recognize right away, like, whoa, this is amazing. I want this in my life. And my club members, they go through about a bottle a month. So there's two sizes to the club. There's this size that's the 250 ml, and there's this one that's 500 ml. So depending on how much you cook at home, and the goal is to use one bottle per month. And you'll do that. I mean, there's like 1 tablespoon is a serving on the nutrition facts, and there's 17 in here. So you can really improve, 17 meals at least with a bottle of olive oil. So it's really not that hard to use it up. And the goal is to always be ready for the next shipment right when it arrives. So your goal is to use a bottle a month. And then I'm part olive oil concierge and I'm part olive oil sommelier. So I'll find the best stuff and then I will ship it directly to your door. And I'm the single link in the chain and I'm obsessive about every detail, very highly OCD when it comes to the olive oil, because it's a race against time and it's going to be beautiful. So anyway, that's how we do it. Really, the proof's in the pudding, and people stay with me. That's the real sauce.
Yeah, what is your like return rate for customers?
When people try the oil, about 70% of people will continue, depending on the list and the offer. So I'm expecting, your folks being interested in health and you wanting to use this as a health hack, and replace some of the crappy stuff that's in their diet. And just also opening up this lifestyle adventure and this, you're going to become like the olive oil expert in your crowd. Like when you go to a restaurant and olive oil is served, you're going to immediately recognize like this is crap. And your friends will be like, "This is great," and you're going to be like, "No, this is crap. I got the good stuff at home." But anyway, and it's fun. We people they have taste. We have a little tasting party on the back. How you can taste it at home, and it just becomes this fun thing you just plug yourself into, and it's an adventure. So yeah, that's people stay with me because the thing is, once you learn, it's kind of like coffee. Once you got away from Folgers and Maxwell House, commodity level coffee, and you move to a higher level, if you're a Starbucks fan, Starbucks, if you're like a Pete's fan, or if you're like your local micro roaster, if you're that, see, there's no way you can go back to Folgers and Maxwell House. And that's exactly why people stay with me. So are you a coffee guy?
Yeah, I love Starbucks, but I also love small batch coffee roasters too.
Me too. I'm I'm with you. Starbucks is consistent. I used to call them charbucks because I don't like overly charred coffee. I like the integrity of the bean, but I love the nitro brews. Like I drink those on the road because they're consistent and delicious. And yeah, so for me, it is. But these oils, so there are competitions in Italy. There are guides called Flow Sole or there's so many. Spain has one. In fact, the producer who made one of the oils we're going to taste today just won Miller of the Year in Spain. So very happy about that. And yeah, here's his picture. Anyway, super, super cool guy and highly passionate about olive oil. But so these competition winners, these are like geeks. And when I get to serve their geekiest thing at the highest level, because they don't want to send their precious baby olive oil from their family farm, they don't want to send it to supermarket shelves. Like it's just like a total disconnect for them. They know and they reserve the best fruit and the best oils for me because they know my club members are the greatest appreciators of what they're doing. So for me, that has been when we talk about relationship and that feedback loop, because my club members write in and say, "Oh my gosh, that oil from Claudio, this is amazing. I used it for blah blah blah," or my baby just started getting off of baby food, or just started getting off of milk and moved to food, and now I'm mashing a little olive oil in with their carrots and peas, and man, my baby just loves the olive oil. Or kids who are using olive oil. I mean, they're just this feedback loop we have directly with our producer versus them like sending it out into the abyss. It just really plugs into their passion and what they're doing too.
Couple things before we get into the tasting. I mentioned that I interviewed Andrew Zimmern yesterday, and I asked him a very similar question I'd love to ask you. You know, you've traveled a lot around the world, met a lot of amazing people, traveled to different countries that are much different than the U.S. Interacted with a lot of farmers. Like, has there been like a person that has stood out to you, or a story you have, or a lesson you've learned from meeting so many different people over the course of your life?
You know, I don't know that there's one specific person. I think r- these crowds, these folks that I really get to work with in these cultures, like Mateo or Claudio Di Mercurio or these gentlemen, what they do, they really plug themselves into a community, and that's a local community. So these people, like Claudio, for example, who produces one of my Italian oils, he and his family, he is always submitting his oils for awards. He's traveling to award shows. He's highlighting that Abruzzo, this tiny region in Italy, can produce oils that beat, the oils from Tuscany and some of the other top producing regions from Sicily. But these people, what they do, they nerd out in their craft. But they also find their community, and it's a very tight knit community. So Claudio, he's hanging out with the scientists who run a facility at work at a local university. He has interns who come who are in milling school because they want to learn from him. So I think all the people that I find like super successful in their craft, they're really plugged into community, and I think that's true for anything in life, whether you want to be a potter, and getting into that community, or, if you want to be a chef. For me, that was finding, I didn't even know there was such a thing as certified master chefs. I had no idea. I didn't know there was something called the American Culinary Federation, and all they have to support culinarians out there in the world, and certifications and all that. But, I think finding community is really the key that just catapults success. So and for me, that's been the olive oil community, and the health and wellness community. They've helped me fuel my passion, because in the beginning I was only a food guy. I was not interested in health at all until about 2009, and I sat beside Mike Geary at an event, and he said, I love olive oil. I know it's like a food thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a foodie. But he's like, I would love to offer this to my health list. It's truthaboutabs.com or something from like 2009. I can hardly remember. But anyway, he's been a big fan of the oil and a big supporter since then, and really introduced me to the health and wellness community. And that's like really those folks. They're seekers of quality, and they're people who stick with me.
So when it comes to purchasing olive oil, we've talked about like what to look for, why store bought isn't necessarily the way to go. You want to find like a small batch, like a company like yours. But let's just say before we get into the tasting, let's just say someone's like, all right, like I don't, I want to taste, I want to see if I can tell the difference myself in a store before I go out and sign up for a club, or before I get like, emails from your company or whatever. If somebody like leaves this conversation right now and they want to go to the grocery store, any brands or anything specific you would point them to that would at least show them the value of finding the right olive oil?
Sure. California does a pretty good job. Unfortunately, we only produce about 5%, 5 to 7% of the oil we consume in America is grown in California. They're the only real producing state. We have a little bit in Texas, a little bit in Arizona. But if you get a chance to visit a farm at harvest time and have that experience, or just after, that would be wonderful. Um, Looking for places high turnover, dark glass. When we taste the oil, we're gonna name some things that are these are gonna be key takeaways for you to learn. So you will learn how to identify. So stay tuned for that. Um, there are stores that you can go into where they have the silver fustos, and you can actually have a tasting cup. There's stores around the US that you can go in and try some olive oil. But the easiest thing to do is just do a taste test in your home. And there's our club is very, excuse me, easy. We have that easy to get to know us offer that's specific for you at Get Fresh Doug. And of course, you can cancel at any moment. There's no, if you try the oil and after 2 weeks you're like, this isn't for me, just let us know. It's very easy. There's no cancellation. There's no minimum to buy. There's no anything. It's a real easy to get to know us offer, and we're a good guy. Business is my company, and we're very easygoing. So, I would say, take away from our conversation and then try it yourself. That's probably what you should do.
Well, I'm hungry, so let's get to tasting.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So we're actually, before we taste, we're gonna do the organoleptic nose test first. So we're actually gonna take 2 cups and we're gonna put in front of us, and we like to taste, and traditionally we taste from milder to more bold. So we're gonna taste this one first, which is the medium selection from this quarter. So and when I say taste, we're gonna smell it first. But this is the Garcia Molina. So what I want to do, I want to put about a tablespoon of that in my tasting cup. So here, and that's first. So that's on my left. So I've got this in my cup. Yep. And then I'm going to do the same with the other one right beside it on the right. The Garcia Torres, which is a Hoja Blanca. This is a single variety from the south of Spain. Both of these are from the south of Spain. I already smell them coming out of the cup already. It's incredible. And professional tasters taste in a blue cup because color is not an indicator of quality. And we have these very specific cups, which really are like wine glasses. They're tulip shaped to bring up the aroma that help us identify the defects in the oil. Now there are no defects in these oil because they're perfect. But we're only gonna smell first. So let's start with the smell test on the Garcia Molina first. Okay. So this is the Pequal. This is a medium oil. So how I do it, I put the cup in the palm of my hand. And why am I doing that? I'm warming the oil. I'm putting my other hand right on top, and I'm just moving the oil around. And I'm doing that to warm the oil in my tasting cup. And what that does, and that's why that tasting glove cup is shaped like that, it helps us bring out all the aromas, positive or negative, in the oil. So I just do this for just a couple seconds, about 10 seconds, and then I inhale and I smell the beautiful pequal because this is like wheatgrass. It smells like arugula. It smells like fresh basil. So like we want to smell fresh things. We don't want to smell crayon, waxy, dull, rancid. Like we want to smell freshness. We want to smell fruitiness. This is called fruitiness. So we kind of geek out, and I'll let you smell that and continue to smell that when I read the nose notes for this one. I say in my tasting note card, which comes, I'm showing it here on the screen. This comes along with your shipment. Says this Pequal is intensely green and vibrant on the nose, with aromas of tomato leaf, baby spinach, arugula, kale, notes of kiwi, lime zest, hints of basil, rosemary, thyme, and nasturtium. Do you get any of those in the nose? What do you smell?
I do. I do. Definitely the basil for sure.
Yeah, it's there. It's there. It's just like a pesto in a bottle. Like, I mean, even though we can't judge it by its color, look at that color. It's insane. Like, Pequal is just one of my favorite olive varieties because it has this impressive aroma. So before we taste that, I want to move to the nose on the Ojiblanca, just so you have something to compare and contrast with. So we've got the Ojiblanca, which is the Garcia Torres. We're going to smell that one. We're going to do the same technique where we warm it on our in our hand, and we're going to smell it. And we're looking for this fruitiness, things that are fresh and alive and vibrant. Again, the difference between commodity level olive oil would be like dried herbs, and this would be fresh oil and should smell like fresh herbs, even though there's only olives in here. There's nothing added. It's just wonderful fruit that is lovingly. So this one's a touch nuttier. It's still got all that green grassiness, all that sort of thing. Little bit quieter than the other one on the nose, not on the palate, as you'll see, but do you get anything specific in that one? Anything coming out on you for, do you smell anything?
I'm totally novice when it comes to this stuff, but I do smell. It does smell. It's. I think it's more. It's milder compared to the other one, and I definitely smell basil.
Yep. I, 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 I definitely get that. I get some celery, this vegetable kind of vegetables, the basil, like you said, maybe some sweetness of pear, maybe give it a smell, or Asian pear, like green apple.
I definitely smell the pear after you saying that.
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of the fresh cut grass aroma and those sort of, and it really lights up on food. And we're tasting these, very strictly in a glass or assessing them in a glass. But when you put them on food, they light up. The food lights up, they light up. It's just a beautiful thing. So let's go back. Now we're going to actually do a tasting and talk about how to actually taste. So we're going to go back to this one, if you would, Doug, which is the Garcia Molina. And we're going to do the same little smell test because it may have changed a little bit since we smelled the other one. I just love that Pequal. Okay, so what we do, we take about so there's about a tablespoon in our cup. We're going to take about a teaspoon and we're going to chew it a little bit. We're just going to put it on our palate. And this is what we do for our organoleptic assessment. And what you're going to notice right away is bitterness. And bitterness tells you those plant sterols are there. Those are the antioxidants. Those are the polyphenols. That is what you're looking for. You see how it's like almost vibrating on your tongue a little bit? Like it's green, it's luscious, it's like very like bitter, like you've bitten like a walnut or green tea or that sort of thing, like a fiery watercress or arugula. You is the sensation you're getting. And then lastly, what you're going to feel when you swallow that, you're going to get some spiciness. You're going to get a little tickle in the throat. You may cough. In Tuscany, they'll say a one cough oil, a two cough oil, a three cough oil, because that's a sign of freshness. So olive oil should A, be fruity, two, be bitter, and three, be spicy. That's how you know it's the highest quality olive oil possible. If your olive oil is not giving you those three things, you're not hitting the mark as far as having the best.
I love it, man.
And the finish, right? It's clean. It's not oily. Do you feel like the mouthfeel of that? It's just like, mm, I just love it. I love
I
it.
definitely feel the throat tickle and the spice. At first I was like, "What is that? Like, why is it spicy going down my throat?" And then you clarified that because I was going to say something, but
Yeah. Well, so there was a scientist who was visiting Sicily where I discovered fresh olive oil, and his name was Jerry Beaucamp, and he was he studied ibuprofen as his day job, and he was visiting Sicily at harvest time, and he noticed that olive oil gave him this pinch in the throat the way ibuprofen did back in the lab. He took a sample back to his lab of the fresh oil, and he identified and named a compound that is akin to ibuprofen. So, we get the antioxidant or anti-inflammatory benefits of that are akin to ibuprofen without ingesting ibuprofen, which is bad for our liver and all that sort of stuff. So there are all these health benefits that just keep getting discovered for brain, gut, bone, insulin sensitivity. There's some research around insulin sensitivity, and when you're consuming food with olive oil, so that's a fun rabbit hole to go if you have people that are trying to manage insulin, people that are using olive oil as part of their diet, low carb diets. So anyway, that's fun. And then yeah, like we talked about the finish on this oil, I say it's elegant and intense on the palate. We tasted celery leaf, parsley, wheatgrass, rosemary, thyme, along with the bitterness and spiciness of arugula and black peppercorns. And then I give people what to pair it with. I say bolder oils go with bolder food. So this one, has all the little food pairings that I like to. But again, there are no rules. You can do what you like. And then for the next oil, we're going to try the Hoja Blanca, which is a single variety from the south of Spain that are made by two wonderful gentlemen, Luis and Carlos. They're both very talented. So we're going to do the smell test and then we're going to taste it. That's bright. It's opening up on the nose too. Beautiful. Mm. Oh man, this makes me so hungry.
I taste more celery
Hmm.
and it's a little bit more bitter. Is that accurate?
Yep. Polyphenol count on this one is 341, where the Garcia Molina, the polyphenol count is 401. So over 400. Mother Nature kind of dictates that. Sometimes a lot of the oils are over 500. We've had them as high as 600 or seven, sometimes as low as three. It just really depends on what Mother Nature is giving us. But with this one, you definitely get like that Szechuan peppercorn, that kind of tingliness on the tongue. Oji Blanca is quite spicy. Um, but it has this beautiful aroma and flavor profile on the mouth. I say it's exceptionally bold on the palate with notes of Belgian endive, baby spinach. I get a little mineraliness in this one, like raw artichoke. Asian pear comes through along with the bitterness of walnut skins and citrus zest, followed by a persistent spicy finish of celery leaves, as you mentioned, watercress, and white peppercorns. So we like to geek out like my tasting panel and kind of pull these out. But you make it your own. You just have fun. You make, whatever food you like, you drizzle on some olive oil, you use it in your salad dressings, you fry your eggs in it, you put it in your smoothies. Like it's just a way to get a truly healthy, beneficial fat into your diet.
Well, TJ, I am hungry right now. So, anything else you'd like to add regarding what we've talked about, the tasting, your company?
No, I think, people just need to try the oil. If they've never had it, let them have that experience I had in Sicily. Let them have their own aha moment. And then they will measure all other oils up to that. There is a learning curve to using this oil. It is bold and spicy and, like the difference if you're used to only using dried herbs and you're introducing to fresh, but give it some time, start using it. When you set your table with salt and pepper, set the table with olive oil. You'll start using it as a sauce. Just steam some simple broccoli or whatever you like to cook. Even if it's takeout or meal delivery service, just drizzle it with some fresh olive oil, and you're going to find you feel the difference in the oil. And when you feel the difference, and this you actually digest some of the love and care and passion that goes into this product. I think it just leads you to a very happy place. So anyway, I say just, join me on the adventure, try it for $1. There's no real downside at all. And it's not available on the website. They have to go to getfreshdoug.com for your offer.
Getfreshdoug.com. I'll be sure to also include the link to that in the show notes. So, TJ, thank you so much for coming on and for educating myself and my audience about the great olive oil.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming along and supporting me and my mission and my producers. It means a lot. So thank you.
You got it.